Imagine a crime so baffling, so devoid of answers, that it haunts investigators for decades. Cases where the perpetrators vanish into thin air, leaving behind only a trail of questions and a chilling sense of dread. These aren't just stories, they're real-life nightmares, etched into the annals of law enforcement, forever marked as unsolved. For the dedicated agents of the FBI, these cold cases represent an enduring challenge, a silent promise to the victims and their families that the search for truth, no matter how long, will never truly end. From a terrifying serial killer who left a wake of bodies along Interstate 70 to the terrifying accounts of the Phantom Killer, join us as we delve into 5 dark secrets the FBI couldn't solve. June 16, 1980. Local police officers were called out to the scene of a brutal crime in rural Hamilton County, Indiana. When they arrived, they found the remains of 15-year-old Michael Petrie. After a meticulous examination, forensic experts revealed the young boy had been strangled to death. While investigators didn't know it then, this would be the first in a long series of brutal and premeditated killings linked to a ruthless figure known as the I-70 Strangler. The I-70 Strangler is believed to have committed a series of murders between June 1980 and October 1991, primarily targeting young men and boys in Indiana and Ohio. While the exact number of victims attributed to the I-70 Strangler varies across reports, it is suspected that at least 11 individuals were killed. The method of killing typically involved strangulation, and the bodies were often discovered in ditches or remote areas near interstates. It's believed the killer typically targeted young boys and adolescents, meeting them in gay bars and similar establishments within a 4-block radius in Indianapolis. Other victims include 23-year-old Morris Taylor, whose topless body was found in July 1982 in Weasel Creek, rural Hamilton County, near Atlanta, whereas 17-year-old Eric Allen Rutger's topless, shirtless body was found near a stream in rural Preble County, Ohio. He had a burn mark on his left shoulder and was strangled with a rope. An Indianapolis police task force was formed in 1982 to investigate the crimes, with the FBI joining in 1983. Initially, 4 other victims, Gary Davis, Dennis Brotzge, John Roach, and Daniel McNeve, were considered, but later removed from the I-70 Stranglers list, as profilers determined that at least 2 different perpetrators were operating independently. One of the most significant developments in the I-70 Strangler case came with the identification of Herb Baumeister as a prime suspect. Baumeister was a wealthy businessman, husband and father of 3, who led a double life, secretly frequenting LGBTQ+ bars and luring gay men back to his 18-acre property, Fox Hollow Farm, in Westfield, Indiana. The discovery of human remains at Fox Hollow Farm in 1996, following a tip from Baumeister's son, who found a human skull and bones, led to a full investigation. In the years that followed, over 10,000 human bones and bone fragments, some burned and crushed, were eventually recovered from the property, before violently killing them and burying their remains on his estate. By 1998, he had also become the prime suspect in the enigmatic I-70 Strangler case. Unfortunately for the authorities, he had committed suicide 2 years prior. Nonetheless, investigators theorized that the I-70 Strangler's killings ceased around the time Baumeister purchased Fox Hollow Farm in 1991, leading them to believe he continued his murderous activities, but moved his dumping ground from the I-70 to his own property. Even today, the debate rages on with little or no physical evidence that conclusively links Baumeister with the I-70 killings. Many have suggested the police had used him as a convenient excuse to close the case, claiming the real serial killer is still at large. As we delve into the next disturbing case, it's clear the mystery of the I-70 Strangler is not the only dark event that continues to haunt the FBI. Our next victim is marked by a series of enigmatic notes found in his pocket, a puzzle that would baffle the FBI for over a decade. On June 30th, 1999, the partially decomposed body of 41-year-old Ricky McCormick was discovered in a cornfield near West Alton, St. Charles County, Missouri. McCormick, a high school dropout with a criminal record and chronic health issues, was found approximately 15 miles from his St. Louis residence, an unusual distance given that he did not own a car and public transportation did not serve the area. In McCormick's pockets, investigators found 2 handwritten notes, described at the time as being filled with a jumble of letters and numbers, occasionally set off with parentheses. The FBI believed these notes could potentially hold clues to his death and were immediately handed over for investigation. Despite the suspicious nature of the discovery, including the area's history as a dumping ground for murder victims, medical examiners were unable to determine a definitive cause of death due to the advanced state of decomposition. Nonetheless, his death was ultimately classified as a homicide, and an investigation followed. Their first major hurdle was accessing whether or not the strange notes in his pocket could help with their investigation. The 2 papers were filled with roughly 30 lines of long blocks of letters and numbers. To the investigators, these were more than just random characters. They were a mystery waiting to be solved. They turned to the FBI's Cryptanalysis and Racketeering Records Unit, aka CRRU, in Quantico, Virginia, hoping for a breakthrough in deciphering the apparent coded messages. The repetition of specific character groupings, like NCBE and WLD, suggested a consistent rule-based system, rather than random scribbling. But despite their best efforts, the CRRU couldn't crack the code. For nearly 12 years, the notes remained classified as part of an active investigation. According to Dan Olson, chief of the CRRU, they were unable to progress beyond the second step of code breaking, determining the system used. After exhausting all internal leads, the FBI made an unprecedented move on March 29, 2011. Faced with a complex and seemingly unsolvable case, they decided to take a bold step, publicly releasing images of the encrypted notes and appealing for assistance from the public. This rare plea garnered international attention, with thousands of amateur code breakers, puzzle solvers, and linguists offering up theories. The mystery of the notes continues to baffle many, including McCormick's family. Some believe the notes are not a complex code, but rather the personal and nonsensical scribblings written by an illiterate and possibly dyslexic individual. Others, like his girlfriend Sandra Jones, led investigators to believe the cryptic codes were related to drugs. According to Sandra, on one occasion, McCormick returned from a trip to Florida with a considerable amount of marijuana and seemed scared. This led to speculation that the notes could contain instructions, transactions, or a list of contacts related to drug operations. However, the theory that seems to have gotten the most attention is that the notes were written by someone else, quite possibly even the killer. Ilonka Doonan, an amateur cryptographer who initially suspected McCormick authored them, later changed her mind, suggesting he might have been a courier for someone else. As of 2025, Ricky McCormick's encrypted notes remain undeciphered, and his death is unsolved. The FBI continues to list it as one of the CRRU's top unsolved cases. The 12-year delay in publicly disclosing the notes has raised eyebrows, with McCormick's family claiming they were unaware of their existence until the 2011 public appeal. This delay has fueled speculation about potential deeper intelligence or criminal involvement that the Bureau may have been reluctant to disclose. We may never know what events really transpired the night Ricky died. The same can be said about our next victim, 16-year-old Jeanette De Palma, who disappeared over 50 years ago. On August 7, 1972, Jeanette planned to visit a friend in her hometown of Springfield, New Jersey, but before she arrived at her friends that evening, she vanished, and her parents quickly altered the authorities the next morning when she failed to return home. No signs of the young girl came to light for almost 6 weeks. But on September 19th, a gruesome discovery was made, one that shook this small community to its core. A local dog brought a badly decomposed human forearm and hand back to its owner, leading search parties to the rest of Jeanette's remains atop a cliff known to locals as the Devil's Teeth. Early reports and rumors, fueled by local media, suggested that De Palma's death was linked to witchcraft or Satanism. Descriptions varied, but common accounts claimed her body was found within a coffin-shaped perimeter of fallen branches and logs, with several small makeshift wooden crosses inside. Some residents even alleged that her remains were found on a pentagram, surrounded by mutilated animal remains, though law enforcement authorities have denied this. The pastor of the De Palma family's Assemblies of God Church, James Tate, also contributed to the occult theories, speculating it was a satanic killing. The Springfield Police Department launched an investigation, but an autopsy could not definitively determine the cause of death. There was no evidence of bone fractures, bullet wounds, or knife strikes. While the coroner suspected strangulation, leading the Union County Prosecutor's Office to treat it as an unsolved homicide, no drug paraphernalia was found, despite some police speculation of an overdose. An unusually high amount of lead was found in her remains, but its significance was not explained. A major point of contention and mystery in the De Palma case has been the alleged presence of occult symbols around her body. After years of denials and claims that the case files were destroyed in Hurricane Floyd in 1999, Weird NJ magazine, through correspondent Jesse P. Pollock and Jeanette's nephew Ray, successfully obtained copies of De Palma's case file in February 2021 via the New Jersey Open Public Records Act and the Freedom of Information Act. Upon reviewing the crime scene photographs, Weird NJ confidently stated that there was no occult activity involved in Jeanette's death. The alleged crosses made from sticks and twigs and halo of stones were completely absent from the photos. Similarly, no animal sacrifices were present. But this begs the question, what really happened to young Jeanette all those years ago? The contents of Jeanette's purse were found approximately 8 feet from her remains, including tissues, a Vicks inhaler, lipstick, a comb, a key, and a vial. However, Jeanette's purse itself, along with any money or her wallet, was never recovered. Additionally, her cross necklace, which her family widely reported as missing, was also absent from her body, a detail corroborated by the 2021 reports. This suggests that her killer may have taken these items as souvenirs. In 2021, convicted serial killer Richard Cottingham, known as the Torso Killer, made statements to journalist Jesse P. Pollock, alluding to his possible involvement in De Palma's death. He claimed he may have abducted and killed her while she was hitchhiking. However, there is no real evidence to back up his claims. Today, the case of Jeanette De Palma remains a tragic mystery. While the sensationalized occult narrative has been largely disproven, the fundamental question of who killed Jeanette De Palma and why remains unanswered. Our next story takes us to the quiet twin cities of Texarkana, straddling the border of Arkansas and Texas, where a series of brutal, unsolved murders plunge the community into a state of unprecedented terror, giving rise to the chilling legend of the Phantom Killer. On February 22, 1946, Jimmy Hollis and his girlfriend, Mary Jean Larry, were parked on a secluded road outside Texarkana, Texas, near where the present-day Central Mall is located. Suddenly, a man wearing a white cloth as a mask approached their vehicle and shone his flashlight in the window. The assailant ordered Hollis to remove his pants and then struck him twice on the head with a firearm, fracturing his skull. Larry, initially believing Hollis had been shot, attempted to show the assailant Hollis's empty wallet. She was then struck with a blunt object and ordered to run. But after attempting to flee, she was confronted again by the attacker, who sexually assaulted her with the barrel of his gun. After the terrifying ordeal, Larry finally managed to escape and alert police, while Hollis also regained consciousness and sought help. Both victims survived, though Hollis was hospitalized for several days with multiple skull fractures. This was the first so-called attack of the Phantom of Texarkana, but the subsequent victims wouldn't be so lucky. On the morning of Sunday, March 24th, Richard Griffin and Polly Ann Moore were discovered dead in Griffin's car on a lover's lane south of U.S. Highway 67 West in Bowie County. Griffin was found kneeling between the front seats, and Moore was sprawled face down in the back seat. Both had been shot once in the back of the head, while fully clothed. Bloodstains near the car suggested they were killed outside the vehicle and then placed back inside. A .32 caliber cartridge casing was found at the scene. Just over 3 weeks later, the bodies of 16-year-old Paul Martin and 15-year-old Betty Jo Booker were discovered, riddled with bullets. The weapon used was a .32 automatic Colt pistol, the same caliber as in the previous double murder. At this point, investigators began to link the three crimes together, and it looked like they had a serial killer on their hands. The attacks were attributed to an unidentified perpetrator known as the Phantom of Texarkana, the Phantom Killer, or the Phantom Slayer. The incidents caused widespread panic, leading residents to arm themselves and remain indoors after dusk, while law enforcement agencies at the city, county, state, and federal levels launched extensive investigations. On May 3rd, another unprovoked killing took place on a 500-acre farm just off Highway 67 East. Virgil Starks and his wife Katie had settled in for the evening, but unbeknownst to them, a shadowy figure lurked in the distance. As Virgil comfortably read a newspaper, the figure approached a window at the side of his home and fired off a weapon, killing him instantly. Hearing the noise, Katie rushed to his aid and was shot twice through the same window. Despite her injuries, she managed to escape and ran to a neighbor's house for help, where she collapsed after crying out, "Virgil's dead." Katie managed to survive the terrifying ordeal and was questioned by Miller County Sheriff W.E. Davis, who led the investigation into this attack. Although a .22 caliber weapon was believed to have been used in this incident, different from the .32 caliber used in the previous double murders, the lack of an apparent motive led investigators to initially link it to the Phantom Killer. The investigations involved multiple law enforcement agencies, including the Bowie County Sheriff's Office, Texarkana Police Department, Miller County Sheriff's Office, Arkansas State Police, Texas Rangers, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Yet, despite extensive investigations, the Phantom Killer was never definitively identified or apprehended. Nearly 400 suspects were investigated, and numerous false confessions were made. One likely candidate for the murders was Wells Swinney, a 29-year-old career criminal. He was arrested for car theft in July 1946 by Arkansas State Police Detective Max Tackett, who noted a pattern of stolen and abandoned cars around the times of the murders. Swinney's wife, Peggy, initially confessed in detail that Swinney was the Phantom Killer, providing information that police could independently verify. However, Peggy later recanted her confession and could not be compelled to testify against her husband, leading prosecutors to drop murder charges. Sheriff William Hardy Bill Presley believed Swinney was the culprit, and there was some evidence to suggest this. His wife possessed a car stolen on the night of the Griffin Moore murders, and she also later identified a location where a victim's possessions were discarded. Detectives also found a work shirt in his room with a laundry mark, STARK, and slag-matching samples from Virgil Stark's welding shop. He also reportedly sold a .32 automatic Colt pistol in a craps game. But despite the evidence seemingly pointing towards Swinney, the best detectives at the FBI and other law enforcement agencies never charged anyone with the murders, and the identity of the Phantom Killer remains a dark stain on American history. Our last mystery takes us to Kansas City, where we delve into the chilling story of room 1046 at the Hotel President, a case that began on a seemingly ordinary January day in 1935 and quickly spiraled into one of America's most perplexing unsolved murders. On January 2nd, 1935, a man checked into the Hotel President in Kansas City, Missouri, under the name Roland T. Owen. He requested an interior room, several floors up, specifically room 1046, and paid for his stay in advance. Hotel staff described him as well-dressed, in a dark overcoat and noted a distinctive scar on his head and a cauliflower ear, leading some to believe he might have been a boxer or wrestler. Curiously, he carried no luggage beyond a hairbrush, comb, and toothpaste in his coat pocket. Over the next few days, Mary Soptic, the hotel maid, noticed some unusual behavior from Owen, and she later said he appeared to be worried about something. On one occasion, Owen asked her to leave the door unlocked as he was expecting friends, and Soptic observed a note on his bedside table that read, "Dawn, I will be back in 15 minutes. Wait." The following day, on January 3rd, Mary Soptic returned to clean room 1046. To her surprise, the door was locked from the outside, yet Owen was inside, sitting alone in the dark. While she was there, Owen received a phone call, during which he repeatedly stated, "No, Dawn, I don't want to eat. I am not hungry. I just had breakfast." Later that afternoon, Soptic heard two men talking in the room, one of whom had a loud and deep voice that she believed was not Owen's. When she offered fresh towels, the deeper voice declined. That night, other guests on the 10th floor reported hearing loud voices and cursing. The morning of January 4th brought the horrifying discovery. The hotel switchboard operator noticed the phone in room 1046 was off the hook, so bellhop Randolph Probst was sent to investigate. When he arrived at Owen's room, he found the door locked with a "Do Not Disturb" sign. After repeatedly knocking, a voice from inside told him to enter and turn on the lights, but Probst couldn't open the locked door. Another bellboy, Harold Pike, later entered the room with a passkey and found Owen naked on the bed, seemingly drunk, with dark spots on the bedding. However, when Probst returned to the room around 11 a.m., he made a gruesome discovery. Owen was on his knees and elbows, holding his bloodied head in his hands. Probst turned on the light, revealing blood on the walls, bed, and in the bathroom. Police and a doctor arrived to find Owen bound with a cord around his neck, wrists, and ankles, with severe injuries including a fractured skull, stab wounds to the chest, and bruising consistent with strangulation. When asked who had caused his injuries, Owen reportedly replied, "Nobody," and claimed he had fallen and hit his head on the bathtub. He lost consciousness shortly after and died in the hospital just after midnight on January 5, 1935. The investigation quickly revealed that Roland T. Owen was an alias. No identification was found in the room, and his belongings, including his clothes, soap, and towels, were missing. The absence of a weapon and the binding cords ruled out suicide. 4 small fingerprints, believed to be a woman's, were found on the telephone. Despite nationwide appeals and the circulation of his photograph, his true identity remained unknown for over a year. In March 1935, as Owen was set to be buried in a potter's field, an anonymous man called the funeral home, offering to pay for a proper burial at Memorial Park Cemetery, stating the deceased would be near his sister. The caller also claimed Owen had been killed in retaliation for cheating on one woman while engaged to another, stating cheaters usually get what's coming to them. Money arrived, wrapped in newspaper, and 13 American beauty roses were sent to the grave with a card signed, "Love Forever, Louise." Finally, in 1936, Ruby Ogletree of Birmingham, Alabama, identified the man from a newspaper photograph as her son, Artemus Ogletree, who had left home in 1934 at the age of 17 to hitchhike to California. This identification, however, only deepened the mystery. She claims to have received several typewritten letters purportedly from Artemus after his death, postmarked from Chicago and New York, which she found suspicious due to their typing and unfamiliar slang. In August 1935, she received a phone call from a man in Memphis, Tennessee, who claimed Artemus was alive in Cairo, Egypt, married to a wealthy woman, and unable to write due to losing a thumb in a fight where he had saved the caller. Yet investigations found no record of Artemus traveling overseas. Police conversations with Ruby revealed Artemus had also stayed at the St. Regis Hotel in Kansas City, sharing a room with another man, possibly Don. In 1937, a man named Joseph Martin, arrested for murder in New York, was found to have used the alias Donald Kelso. His handwriting was reportedly matched to the letters sent to Ruby Ogletree, but no charges were filed against him in the Ogletree case. The KCPD kept the case open for decades, but no new evidence emerged, and it eventually went cold, becoming yet another dark spot on the FBI's record.